So this, just let me know and I can talk louder than I am. We're recording this. That have interest in being here tonight but can't be, and so we're recording it and we're going to make it available to the public later. The recipients that are here tonight that are within the boundaries. Information. Is that better? Is that better? Okay. My name is Sydney Franklin. I work at 75 North Revitalization Corporation. For those of you that don't know, we are the neighborhood redevelopment organization that works solely in this neighborhood, Highlander. We're the owner and operator of the facility that you're sitting in, which is called the Highlander Accelerator, and the housing that's sitting just to the south and southeast of us. Some of you may not know that 75 North is a partner in the Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant that this neighborhood received from the federal government, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development in 2019. We applied for $25 million to essentially further the activity that's happening here at Highlander from a programmatic standpoint around kind of health and wellness activities and amenities. So, you know, Wi-Fi access, healthcare amenity, access to healthy food, et cetera, all the things that all of us want to experience in our lives. Mixed income housing, and also some supports to grow an educational ecosystem. And so that was awarded in 2019, focused on the reconstruction of Spencer Homes public housing. We've been doing public meetings for the last 2 years on what that process looks like in this neighborhood and specifically at Spencer Homes. A really cool part of that grant is 15% of the $25 million could be used for community improvement. And so that's the impetus for this curb appeal program. You received some information in the mail recently as a homeowner in a corridor that's deemed key as it's connected to one of the activities that the federal government deems important. So Spencer Homes, Howard Kennedy Elementary School, the Omaha Early Learning Center at Kennedy. This facility from Hamilton, North Pinckney Street, roughly 28th Street to roughly, depending on which block it is, 36th or 36th Street. That's kind of the really rough boundaries for homeowners that live in their homes, access funds to improve the exterior of your homes. It's grant dollars that you can be eligible for up to almost $20,000. And so that's really what we're here to talk about today, are the parameters for that program. How do you apply to the city of Omaha to access that grant to improve your home, and what are the eligibility requirements are. And so again, my name is Sydney. I'll be here, and I want to turn it over to Kelly Johnson Dorsey. She is the manager of all of this cool stuff that we get to do along the North 30th corridor, and specifically this program here. And so I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, and thank you so much for being here tonight.
So at this point, the microphone stopped working, and for about the next 3 minutes till we switched over to the internal microphone on the camera, and it will sound better from there on out. So, but for the next 3 minutes, I'm going to dub over a little bit what's going on. Again, the microphone is handed off to Kelly Johnson Dorsey, who is the city planner for the Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Grant, also known as the CNI grant. And right now, she's basically going over the agenda, doing some introductions of some of the main players involved and some of the city planning staff that is in attendance. Agenda is basically the purpose of the appeal grant program, eligible applicants, eligible enhancements, process, applications, and then questions. This first slide here goes over the purpose of the curb appeal grant program. 90% of residents in the 2020 neighborhood survey wanted improved or fixed up houses. Choice Implementation Grant has funds for physical, community, and economic development projects that enhance and accelerate the transformation of the neighborhood and the target housing being redeveloped. Solve challenges identified by the community and not intended to be used for infrastructure or substitute for basic municipal services. After this slide, we'll be moving on to eligible applicants. So just give a minute here, and then she'll switch slides, and I'll kind of go over the first half because then after that the sound comes back on. Okay. So eligible applicants for owner-occupied homes along key streets. The key streets are basically along the North 33rd and 30th Street corridor. So, for example, the first one goes North 30th Street from Pinckney to Hamilton, and the last one says Parker Street from North 33rd Street to Highway 75.
This is not eligible, right? People who write out their homes are not eligible for this. It's just people who own their homes and live along key streets. So we have a big map in the back that show what the key streets are. And generally they're North 30th Street from Pinckney to Hamilton, a segment of those busier streets that connect the neighborhood. They go over the freeway, 30th Street obviously. Also eligible applicants are located directly next to where new housing will be built as part of this project. So those are identified in the map as well in blue, which are easier to see, but we have them on this map, which is a little bit more difficult. So if you've heard us talk about Kennedy Square East, Kennedy Square West, so essentially where Spencer Homes is now and where the MLK Center is now, Davis Ridge, which is directly over here, Burdett and Wade in the Overlook, which are under construction across 30th Street right now, and Nobility Point, which is senior housing that was completed about a year ago. So what can the grant program pay for? So any improvements need to be visible from the street, and this has been an interesting conversation. Like I said, these are federal dollars, these are HUD dollars, these are not city dollars. So we've had to discuss all of this entire program that we're developing with HUD to make sure that they are okay with how we're spending their funds essentially. So improvements need to be visible from the street. Eligible enhancements include exterior painting, also like siding repair, things like that, tree planting, porch repair, replacement, or addition, fence removal or repair. If you do one of those larger items that are really visible, you'd also be eligible for repair or replacement, so your sidewalk and retaining wall repair. We know there's a lot of retaining walls next to sidewalks in the area as well. So here's the process. I tried to simplify it as much as possible, although it's still 10 things. And this is the abbreviated version on the handout you have. On the back side is the more detailed process, right? So this is kind of a summary of what you have in your hands now. So first is everyone would need to turn in an application by June 20th. So we have applications at a back table, and they'll be on the website once HUD's approved the program. We wanted to get them to you now since you're here, so we do have those on the back table. A selection committee will review and prioritize applications. Property ownership will be verified. A construction specialist who is a city employee will evaluate the homes, do the work write-up, and prepare a budget. The applicant, so that homeowner, would approve that scope of work, right? So you as the owner would say whether or not that scope of work aligns with what you're needing and wanting, right? The construction specialist will place the scope out for bid, and the contract is awarded to the lowest and best bidder. There is a homeowner agreement that is signed by the homeowner and the contractor, with the city of Omaha, a rehabilitation contract signed by the homeowner and the contractor, and I have draft versions of those in the back as well. Construction that occurs, which would be supervised and managed by the construction specialist with the city of Omaha. Once construction concludes, you as the homeowner would need to sign off before the contractor is paid that the work is done and is satisfactory. So all applicants will be notified as how you were prioritized. Approximately 5 projects will be happening at the same time, so we want to get as many done as we can, but it really depends on what contractor pool we have. How many contractors do we have that can bid on this work and do the work, right? So actually right after this meeting, is a contractor meeting, trying to get them, informed and to sign up to participate in doing this work. So we're going to have future funding rounds potentially, and it will depend on demand, success, and lessons learned from this first round. Like I said, this is a brand new grant program we've developed, and future application rounds could expand eligibility. So if we get through and there's no more owner-occupied homes on these key streets, we could expand the area, or we could expand it into rental or something like that. But we're going to get through this first round and kind of see what the demand is for the program. Like I said, it's brand new. So property owners of unfunded applications would be notified of any future funding rounds, right? So if you turn in your application, we're not going to toss it. We're going to keep in contact with you, whether or not you're in that first 5 of the applications or you're lower down on the priority list once they're ranked. So the selection committee will consist of these individuals: a representative from the city, from the neighborhood planning section, a representative from the city of Omaha, the project manager, who's actually Louis at the back table, a representative from the Omaha Housing Authority, who is our partner in this grant, a representative from 75 North, residents from Spencer Homes, and then residents from the neighborhood as well, who have yet to be identified. But we want to make sure that that neighborhood input and involvement is involved in the selection when awarding these grants. So the priorities when ranking these applications. The first is locations. You need to be located on one of these key streets or directly next to one of these housing phases. Proximity and visibility to new choice programs, and just making sure it's really visible in the neighborhood is a priority, right? We want it to be very obvious for everyone, your neighbors and everyone else in the community. And then impact. So the impact that this improvement or these improvements would have on neighborhood beautification. So these are really our only 2 priorities when ranking applications. So on to applications. There have paper copies in the back. Mail them or turn them in person to down at the city of Omaha, or email them in as well. And I think maybe we talked, if you want to drop it off at 75 North offices, they're right across the little walkway here. You can do that as well. And we'll have documentation there as well. We can leave. And make sure anyone who's just in the neighborhood wants to stop by and pick up an application, drop off an application, or get any of the program information, to just do so right here in the neighborhood. So that's a really high-level overview of the program. We have really detailed program guidelines in the back table as well that gets into all sorts of different nuances. The big disclaimer here is we've been communicating a lot with HUD about this program. They have conceptually approved everything. They have all of our documents. They have not given us the final okay on those yet. So we have a little disclaimer on those that they are still pending HUD approval. But we wanted to get this program rolling as soon as we can, and especially this summer we can get some construction going when it's nice out. So we want to provide those with you. I don't anticipate any changes. We've been communicating about all of this with HUD even as of earlier today. So I don't anticipate changes, but we wanted to make sure it's available to you too. So with that, what kind of questions do you have?
So you mentioned the contract manager would inspect. Is that to discuss like some of the plans? Like I think I would benefit by this.
Yeah. The question was that it states in the process that a construction specialist will inspect the home. The purpose of that is to discuss the proposed improvements. It's not, trying to find any code violations. That's not the intent of it. It's just to discuss improvements that are requested. So in the application, you write down what improvements you would like. So it's out there, anything else you may see that may be in tandem with that, or if there's suggestions. It's not to find code violations.
Understood.
Yeah.
Also, I probably have several questions. I hope you don't get sick of me. So, assuming that I have some things and we discuss things and we agree, yes, there's something that we can work on, he then puts out a bid, or do I have to work on putting out bids as well?
Right, so the question was, once you kind of discussed what the improvements are, who would put the bid out? Is that correct?
That's correct.
The construction specialist would put out the bid. So the city would manage that process of putting out the bid, receiving bids, selecting the bidder, the contractor based on those. you would review it, that scope of work before it goes out. As a homeowner, you would, okay, that scope of work. Also, there is a limit here of $19,999 on home improvements. And so if there's negotiation there too, before or after it goes to bed, as a homeowner, you'll be part of those conversations. So everything that you put in your application will be over budget. A conversation with you and the construction specialist to maybe reduce that scope of work to bring it in line with the budget. Yeah.
Kelly, what if someone doesn't want that scope reduced, but it's over the 19,999? Let's say someone wants their roof also included in the scope of work, which is not eligible in this program, but they want the same contractor that's paying their house to do the roof. How would that work where those costs are passed on to the homeowner?
So I'm going to look at Joyce, but I'm going to try to answer this one. So Joyce is our front and the back who administers the exterior home program that the city already does. So I'm going to look at you, Joyce. Jump in, please, if I missed anything. We have other programs where roofs would be eligible, activities. We have information on those programs, for one. So if you're looking for a grant or a loan or something like that to pay for it, we have other programs that could do that. Otherwise, you could directly contract with the contractor on your own to have that work done at the same time. At the same time, yeah. Joyce, did I cover it okay? Okay.
Another question.
Yeah.
So is the scope of this project limited to those 4 items?
Okay, so the question was, is the scope of this limited to these 4 items?
And I can give you an example of
Yeah.
something I would think of
Uh-huh.
that wasn't listed.
Yeah.
Well, I guess tree planting is listed. So I have planters in the front that haven't been used by 3 years. I've owned the house for about 3 years and would like to plant some perennials, some bushes or something.
Yeah.
I think that would be good.
Yeah, so the question was, could I do something more like some landscaping related work with this? And I would say, as long as one of the top eligible enhancements were done in tandem with it, I'm thinking that we could make that work, yes. Yeah. I would write it with your request, yes. Yeah, question back here.
So I see sidewalk, walkways, concrete repair. What about a driveway with holes in it?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of conversations about driveways. Actually, so the question was, and I'm repeating it for the sake of our recording here, and to make sure I understand your question. So the question is, would driveways be eligible, right?
Yes.
Driveways at this point are not eligible because we're looking for more of the beautification. And while that does improve and make the property more beautiful, we're looking for some more impactful projects for people who may be driving by, walking by. So at this point, at least, maybe in future rounds, but driveways would not be eligible right now. It's just sidewalks or maybe a walkway like leading up to your house. Yes, question. Do you have a question? No? Okay.
For the eligible enhancement, as long as, are you able to get like a couple of the eligible enhancements if they're under the 1999?
Yes, great question. So the question was, could you do a couple of these eligible enhancements as long as they were under the 19999? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir?
Is there a projected timeline of when this will start and when it will be
Yeah.
completed?
So the question was, what's the timeline for this? When is it going to start? When is it getting going? So our applications are due June 20th. Assuming we have HUD's approval to go forth with all of our documentation, we'll have a selection committee probably within 2 weeks of that, prioritize it. Joyce, I'm going to say, what is our average time? Well, we have this, I want to say this is our most simple application process that we have with any of our programs on purpose. We wanted to make it very easy to apply and get these grant funds. So Joyce, what would you say?
Probably within 2 weeks we should have turnaround.
Okay, so within 2 weeks, we could have them prioritized and letting people know how they're prioritized. With this enhancements and with these projects, we've had our construction specialists estimate about 30 to 45 days looking through this to actually do the work. And so within, by the fall, we want to have, at least 5 projects done is, I would say, a reasonable goal. And then we'll just keep going after that. Like we're gonna go is get as many done as we can, as soon as we can. Yes, in the back.
Is there an income stipulation tied to this?
Yes, great question, thank you. So the question is there an income restriction on this program? The answer is no. The purpose of this program is neighborhood beautification, not necessarily to, financially help a homeowner, and so that's our rationale. We've talked about with HUD, and they're okay with this, so there's no income restriction. We are not asking income information on the application. Like I said, we try to make it as simple as possible, so no income does not play a role in this at all. Okay. In the red.
So you stated prior to Brett, when you're starting with 5 families or 5 homes, and however long that would take, the next 5 or next however many would not start until after that.
Yes.
Until 5 is completed.
So the question is, in which we get started with the 5, would we not start the next 5 until those are done? And we're picking 5s because we think it'll be around 5. If we have a lot of contractors, if we have different scopes of work, if we can get, more contractors involved and get the work done, it'll be more than 5. It's just an estimate, right? And as soon as one rolls off, we'll move to the next. So we don't need to wait till all 5 are completed. We'll just keep going down the list. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And then the gentleman in front of you?
You said there was no restriction on income, but would income at all play a role in the privatization?
Income is not going to play. So the question was, is income is not, required for the application? Will it come into play with the prioritization? It will not. We felt like it may keep people from applying for the program if they had to share their financial information, so we're not even asking. So when we look at that application, we don't know any applicant's financial information. Yeah. Yes, over here?
Do you have to live on Lake Street or 30th Street actually do this, or what's the design?
Yeah, so the question was, do you have to live on Lake Street or on North 30th Street to be eligible for this program? And no. We have a couple different streets. You do have to be on a key street or directly next to a housing project, one of the C&I funded housing developments that are upcoming. So North 30th Street from Pinckney to Hamilton, if you live on that street, and I have this all, it's all written down in your handout there as well. And I have a big map in the back that shows what the key streets are, it shows where the housing developments are, and actually it shows every single lot that is eligible in the map in the back. So the properties outlined in orange are the ones at this point that are eligible. Like I said, future funding rounds, we may open that up depending on how far we get and what the demand is. But I would check the map in the back, and it shows each individual property that is eligible based on location. It doesn't get into ownership or being a home or anything like that. It's just the locations that are eligible or not. Yes.
Last question, I think. If you own more than one property in that area, would it be one application or do you have to do separate per?
Okay, so the question is, if you own more than one home in the area, you would have to submit more than one application. You have to live in the home. So practically, I think it would just be, you could apply for the one home that you live in. Yeah. Yes.
Is there any stipulation for doing some of the work myself, or must it all be contracted?
The question is if there's a stipulation for doing the work myself, or if it all has to be contracted. Lewis, we haven't discussed this one, so you're doing it.
What we have discussed is making sure that we have contractors that have completed the application, done the vetting portion of it, to be eligible to do all form of the eligible work.
So as a homeowner, did he do some of the work?
If he submits an application.
Okay.
Because there's levels of license that you can apply for through the city of Omaha to become a contractor. One of those levels is a Class E, which doesn't require any testing, just being able to demonstrate that you can pay for the insurance, your bond, the application, you can actually be issued a Class E contractor's license as well.
So, and another way to answer that is the the contractors are being paid directly. We are, as an applicant, or as a recipient of these grant funds, you do not receive the funds, they are paid directly to the contractor. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Matt?
So you think the issues have to be visible to like walking by or driving by? So what if you have issues in the back also? Think that
We had a lot of conversations even about painting a house. We had conversations of whether or not we could paint all 4 sides of the house. And that was a conversation. And so we can paint the back of your house if we're painting your whole house, but that's really the only thing we can do in the back unless it's visible. So if you live on a corner, then potentially things in the back are visible. But really it's anything that's visible from, someone walking by on the sidewalk, for example.
That's something we had to fight for. It's ridiculous, not paint the entire house.
No. Yes, exactly.
Okay, you say visible, the school, your back is adjacent to the Spencer project. Wouldn't that make it eligible? It's right on top of the.
I think we need to have a conversation. Yeah, I'm not gonna say no right now. I'm not sure, because that's really a great question. We haven't talked about that one. So put in your application and we'll go from there.
Do you have a maximum on how many houses that you want?
Yeah, so the question was, do we have a maximum number of houses to fund? And no, we have a maximum amount per home, which if we use the maximum amount, we would get 25 homes done. But if the homes are using less, if there is a $10,000 project instead of a nearly 20, we could get more done. So it really depends on how much we're spending on each home. Our total amount at this point is $500,000. Yes.
So if you have one of the 4 qualifying projects, and then after that, there's money left in 19, so maybe needs retaining wall work, then you could reapply?
So the question was, if there was an application that had one of the top 4 things done and there was still money left over, if you would need to reapply for one of these other items, and the answer is no, just submit one application, and then everything on there that you want done, and that'll be a conversation with you and the construction specialist to see, you need one of the top 4 within that budget, and then see what's left on the remaining items.
Are you asking though, once we've gone through all the applications, if there's money left in the project or in your individual budget?
Your application.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there something available, so if you, own a home and then you're in between like 2 rentals that the owner doesn't really fix up, is there something for them available where they can fix theirs up? I'm asking because we're right at the cusp of that new development, right, we're back, it's in our backyard. And there's like a lot of work that needs to be done, on that street. And it's, some of the houses are rental properties, and if this is just pertaining to a homeowner, I mean, it's gonna look kind of crazy if, we get this together, and this is a rental property, and it's looking awkward.
Yes. So the question is if there's things available for rental properties as well, because if, we improve some homes, the homes next year aren't so great, right, they need improvements as well. There are other funding sources available that could work for them, just not this one. If we get through the owner-occupied homes, we may open it up to rentals, or at least, we talked about rentals that have local landlords, for example. So if your landlord's in town, maybe we open up to that. We've seen research on the fact that if you improve, that once one home is improved, the neighboring homes are more likely to improve because they see that improvement. So we're hoping that kind of spurs maybe a neighboring property who may not be eligible to do that on their own. But otherwise, I would say this is not for the rental properties at this time. There's other programs available for rental programs, just not this one. And we have paperwork or resources we can point them to. And I think that's kind of where we're at right now. So do you have some?
Well, I was gonna say, so there are other organizations, I want to say Together Omaha, someone jump in here if any of this is
I
incorrect.
work that together. You do? What comes up here?
Is your organization do home, you said you do or you don't work there?
No, I do work at Scanner.
Do you guys do home improvements for rental properties?
No.
Okay. What are the stipulations of your program?
We do, rental assistance, Okay, so what I do is I work in administration, so I make sure that we are abiding by HUD's rules, and so I work in the back. I used to work in the front with all the case managers and work directly with people, but the program I work with is you have to be in a shelter, literally homeless, so we help them get into housing, and then there's another department where help with utility bills, you have eviction notice, those type of things, like emergency assistance.
Okay.
But we don't help with like renovations. Yeah. Sometimes it gets confused with other agencies, and that's not what we do.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. There, was. Thank you.
City of Omaha actually has another program that actually catered for investors who own properties, and it's called our rental rehabilitation program that an investor or an owner can actually apply for. There's a screening process, and then it also goes to a process where it's assigned to a construction specialist. They go out there, make the assessment on the cost, put it back in their hands, and then they can identify a general contractor that can perform the scope of work and a lot of other formal processes, but it is available to investors who own properties that are renting them out.
Is that helpful? Joyce?
Just wanted to mention that this program stops at $19,999. For people who need additional work done on their homes, they could apply for our exterior program, and we can go up a little bit higher than $19,999. It just depends on what you need. So we have the exterior program, we have the emergency program, we have a barrier removal program. So we have lots of programs that might be able to assist you all once you're done with this program.
Or you can apply for both?
You can qualify for all of the programs. On those programs, then you're going to be going over into the income qualifications. So just know that, and if you say, okay, I want to apply for your exterior program, Joyce, and I say, okay, I need tax returns and bank statements and things like that. Those are the things that I need for HUD to prove that you are eligible. So your income, excuse me.
Yes.
Yes.
The city of Omaha is under the neighborhood section of the planning. Yeah. Sounds like we need to get them out. Hey, Winsley.
All right, so we've got brochures on all these other programs. Here's our exterior rehab program.
Yep. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So as you can see, and we've got English, we've got Spanish, we've got all.
There's also
there's other resource. Has an repair program that you could do at the same time with this is for roofing, like major things like foundation repair, where this are in the visual. You compare this with the Habitat for Humanity. There's not a grant, it is a loan, but is 0% interest loan, and it's just another resource you can use.
What other questions? If you know any contractors that are interested in working on this or any of the other projects around here, send them a text. Hopefully they saw the advertisement for the contractor meeting we're having at 7 p.m. right here. Are there other questions? Yes.
Just what you would like. Once the construction looks at home, they'll have a conversation with you about that before they were.
The scope of work. So kind of talk about what you were envisioning, anything that they can see, and then the budget as well. So it'll be a conversation, and then as a homeowner, we'll approve any scope of work before it's put out to bid. So you'll be involved. Write down what you want, and then we'll go from there. All right. Well, thank you. So we have applications. We have a super detailed program guidelines. We have the homeowner agreement, the rehabilitation contract, and these are the brochures on the other kind of home improvement programs available. And that's it. So
if they would prefer to do this online, they can?
they cannot do this online, because you have to like initial and sign a bunch of things. You can submit this, if you want to scan it and email it back in, you can certainly do that.
Okay.
So that's an option, yeah.
If we fill it out and pay for it, then we'll bring it back to.
So
It should be on here.
it's on here as well, and then it's on the screen. You may email it to neighborhoods@cityofomaha.org, or you can mail it or drop it off there, or if you can turn it in at 75 North offices right across the walkway, you can do that as well. Oh, and there's one other stipulation on here. I'm going to go through the application, is that you do need to sign that you are a citizen or you are, you're a legal resident of the United States, because that's a state law, actually, that federal funds will be going to use your little form you sign there at the back of your application. Just want to be honest and transparent with that as well. So, all right, well, thank you so much for coming. Hopefully this was informative. Really appreciate you coming tonight and have this conversation. And if you have any questions, let us know. So we're really excited to finally roll this program out. So we're excited to work with you. Thank you.